Welcome, everybody. And today I am as excited as I've been for any show that I've done before, because in my wheelhouse, we're talking linebackers today. And I got some guys that, from my perspective, you're talking about a lineage of linebackers through a time period in Philadelphia. Great ones. Two of these guys I played with. Two of these guys preceded me. And this show is going to be wild today, because if you could have sat in and listened to the chatter that was going on before we went live, you would understand. First of all, my ace, my partner, we played right next to each other for about 6-7 years out of the University of Arizona, Mr. Byron Evans, 8 years, 4th round draft pick, 93 overall, B&E. What's happening, my brother?
Seth, what's going on, my brother? Blessed to be here. Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. Next up, my man, William Thomas, affectionately known in Philadelphia as Willie T, out of the University of Texas A&M, 12 years in the NFL, 4th round draft pick, 104 overall. Willie T, what's happening, my man?
So what's happening, fellas?
You got it.
All right.
Next up, my man, Jeremiah Trotter, the Axe Man, 11 years in the NFL. I apologize, man, because I got everybody's school down here except for yours.
Man, you ain't no Stephen F. Austin. You know everybody that heard of Stephen F. Austin.
3rd round draft pick, 72nd overall. And Mr. Jeremiah Trotter. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Ike Reese out of Michigan State University. 8 years in the NFL, 5th round pick, 142nd overall. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Seth Joyner Show. Listen, I got a format, but the format don't mean anything, because I want this to be raw and authentic and however you guys want to kick it. So even if you want to go off on a tangent and talk about something, you got something you want to talk about, feel free to, take us there.
I got something to say.
Oh, here we go already.
I think Stephen F. Austin would have beat Michigan State, man. I'm just telling you.
Oh man, that's how we gonna start the show. That's how we gonna start. See, now I was gonna say I'm the only one who actually went to a football factory. I don't know what school y'all went to. It's college football schools, y'all.
Yeah. See, there you go. There you go. I tell you what, if you went to a football factory, boy, they shut that bad boy down. My goodness. So let's just talk about, the season and where we are. I mean, everybody on here is involved in some way, shape, some fashion, some form in the game that we love. B&E is a head coach at South Mountain High School in Arizona. Willie T is working towards becoming, NFL referee. So he's refereeing college games. Obviously, Jeremiah and, coaching, got his boys, trying to get them to the next level. And then you got Ike, who just lives on the radio, chatting up about our Eagles in the NFL. We're in a situation, unprecedented times right now. And there's a lot of fear, there's a lot of anxiety, and there's a lot of apprehension. From you guys' perspective, and we're going to keep the order from oldest to youngest, B, Jeremiah, and then Ike.
Ike like 3 years older than me. Just
yeah, I'm older than Trot. Just for the record, I'm older than Trot.
So, where do you guys? What's your feeling and what's your thoughts on the potential of playing or not playing an NFL season this year, B?
I think, Seth, it's going to be difficult, man. No matter how much money they try to put into it, how much they try to make it right, man. It's a lot of uncertainties out there, man. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of things that still don't know about, and the fact of the matter is, football. We love football, man, and football players love football. But at the end of the day, man, you gotta call a timeout and say, wait a minute, man. How is this going to affect my family? How is this going to affect me? How is this going to affect me in the long run?
Yeah, see, that's why they're giving all the players and all the officials like the option to opt out if they want to. So that's the state that we're in. That you got to give the guys a choice if they want to play and if they want to officiate. So because that's what we have to do these days.
Come on, Trot. Or you want Ike to go? You want Ike to go first because he older.
Oh yeah, because I'm older. Yeah. You want to make sure he keep that in the right order. I got mixed emotions with it. Obviously, for the business that I'm in, the Eagles are number one in Philadelphia. It's the number one thing that we talk about, and we understand how so many lives revolve around the game of football, particularly the NFL during the season. So, from that aspect, I certainly would love to see them attempt to do this and try to push through it. But I also understand that it's more of a wishful thinking than there really being any type of evidence that they will be able to get through it without an outbreak happening. But I think as much as we all love the sport, I'm certainly happy that they're going to attempt to try to have the season. And I think it's going to take, unfortunately, I think it's going to take something drastic to happen for them to back off from having the football season. Like the NFL, we all know this thing is a multiple billion-dollar business. And how many?
Yeah, he just talked himself right off the screen, man. Go ahead, Trot.
Well, I'm with Ike a little bit. I'm hoping they have a season. I'm hoping they're taking the proper steps to protect the players. It's going to take a lot of discipline from the players, because it's not so much when you're at work, it's when you're at home or you're around other people. So they're going to have to be disciplined to, kind of protect themselves when they're away from football. Because it's all it's going to take is one of the stars on the team to have to get quarantined for 2 weeks and miss a couple of games, so on and so forth. And, I'm hoping high school play too. I know my oldest son is going to his senior year. I would love to see him out there and play. We're taking the proper steps to protect the kids, and we're just waiting for the PIAA to make a decision here in the next couple of weeks. I think they're going to put the visors and the mask over the grill, so that'll protect them. And then also just keeping your hands out of your face and those type things. Here's the thing. I don't think this thing is going nowhere no time soon, this virus. Until they get a vaccine, it's not going anywhere anytime soon. So we're going to have to try to find a way to get back to some normalcy and try to stay as safe as possible.
Guys, I'm of the opinion that, at what point in time do we just get on with life? Back in 1918, I believe it was, we had an outbreak, the Spanish flu, and almost, millions of people died, and in my opinion, there's a difference between, a pandemic and what we're experiencing right now. They want to call it a pandemic, but in actuality, when you've only had 150,000 people that have passed away, and I know that word only, for those people who've lost someone, is probably the wrong adjective to use. But at the same time, you have tens of thousands of people that die every month, every half a year, every year, of other things that we're not stopping the economy for and things that we're not shutting down for. I think the numbers are there. We might not know exactly, what it all looks like, but the numbers are there. If you're 65 or above and you got some pre-existing conditions and, you got some, you got some things going on, you're susceptible to this virus. But if you're 65 and under, the numbers say that even if you contract it, there's a 97% chance that you're going to heal from it 100%. And to me, that we're not talking a pandemic. We've created all this fear and we shut down in so many areas. And some guys are going to have some issues. If you got pre-existing conditions, if you got some illness, you're going to have some issues. But at what point in time do we get on with life, when we're talking about 150,000 people out of 331 million people? And the death rate, if you really look at it, they don't want you to really know these numbers, but the death rate seems to be dropping, exponentially. So when you take those things into account, listen, I'd ask the question. I'm out of order here, but I gotta ask the question because there's some differing opinions here. If this pandemic was happening during the era and the time that you guys were playing, B, would you play or would you opt out?
It all depends though, Steph. I think the more that we know, the less that we know, to make it even more uncertain. You got 15 people saying 15 different things. You got the commander in chief saying one thing and everybody else saying another thing, and which is keeping everybody in limbo. I don't think I would because down the line, I know football was my life. Football did great things for me and my family, but man, after football, then what comes next? Then you have to really say that, hey man, all we are is really a guinea pig, man. You're a really guinea pig because you don't know and they don't know. All they doing is they're saying that they know, but they don't really know. They don't really know. And to me, I would have to say, man, that hey man, longevity is a lot more important than just getting an opportunity to do what I love to do.
But I think where I come from, I would probably think of more the lines like, if I'm a younger guy at that point in age, I'm like 20-something years old, I think I would want to go out there and play. And I think that what I would do, I would stay away from the ones at 65 and over, keep myself from them just in case if I did contract, I would make sure that I stay away from people. But you never know because there are asymptomatic people that don't even know they really have it.
Absolutely.
I think all those things certainly would have to go into each individual case. I think Willie T brings up a great point, as well as Byron. But it's all about where you're at in your career, right? Because also where you're at in your life. Do you have a wife? Do you have kids? Are you single? Right? Like, how does this impact your household? Do you have any children that may have some type of sickness or daily illness that they deal with that makes them at higher risk of the COVID-19? So I certainly think each one of us would have an individual case. If I'm going based off of where I was during my playing days, and if I'm thinking about early years, first few years of my career, I don't know if you could have done anything to keep me off a football field. I mean, I don't care what risk that I was taking, I was going to be out there and playing because that's just how much I felt fortunate to be in the NFL. And you guys know how it is, Seth, Byron, you guys, even Willie T and Trot, coming from a smaller school, even though you were a third-round draft pick, we weren't necessarily first, second-round draft picks. So later guys, I felt like, hell, one of these days they're going to realize I'm not good enough and I ain't going to be in the NFL. So that mentality would have told me, hell no, I'm going to play. I'm going to be out there on the field playing. But if you're talking about ninth year Ike with two infant children at home, with a wife at home, and I'm already sort of established as a player and I got a little bit of money in my pocket, okay, now I may think differently and say, I may sit out this year because I'm already an established player. So I can understand where guys want to play and are going to play, but I also understand guys that have decided, you know what, it's not worth the risk for me and my family.
Right.
For me, I'm gonna be honest, man. Whether it was the beginning of my career, the end of my career, I'm playing. I'm playing.
I'm out there fighting coronavirus like it don't matter, man.
Here's the thing: if I had a kid that had a condition where I would quarantine myself. I would get a hotel room and stay there the whole season if I had to. Okay. But I worked so hard to get there, and that is what providing for me and the family. It's one thing it has a little bit to do where you're in your career. You just signed a multi-million-dollar deal and you got a $30 million signing bonus, you might be more apt to be like, you know what? Hey, I'm going to sit out this year. Right. But myself, even if I had to quarantine myself in a hotel for the whole year and just talk to my kids on FaceTime, I would do that. I would take all the proper steps. And even if I stayed at home, I would wear a mask at all times at practice, in meetings. Even if I had to wear a mask at home, man, and I would always check my temperature, check the symptoms or whatever, take all the necessary steps to try to keep myself safe, my family safe, and still go out and do what I love to do and doing what it takes to provide for my family.
See, part of the problem is, we grew up in a different age of football. There's so much money in the game right now.
That's right.
And what I tell people all the time is you have 15% of the players in the NFL that can afford not to play. They can afford not to opt out because of how monumental the money is. Then you got about 85% of the players that need to play from a financial standpoint because of how they manage themselves and because of the lesser amount of money that's out there available. I mean, you've got advocates for and you've got advocates against. Deion Sanders lashed out on social media. Someone said that he was aimed at college football, but in a roundabout way, the Prime don't say anything that does not address to everybody. He said, "Hey, listen, man, the game gonna go on without you. The game is bigger than you." Jack Del Rio chimed in last week, pretty much said, "Hey, I can't say this, but he insinuated that the players just need to get their asses on the field and play football and don't worry about it." Okay. Then the other end of the spectrum, you get two players of Malcolm Jenkins that calls football non-essential. He's basically saying that we don't need football, but you got a guy that's going into double-digit years, has made some cash, and he can afford not to play. And then you got Jason McCourty, who pretty much said, "Hey, the concept of playing a football game under this pandemic is a scary situation." I mean, how do you respond to that, guys?
I know what. I just realized real quick, B, when you can go.
Ahead.
I don't know why it took me this long to realize. I realized I didn't really make no money playing. You damn right I'd be out there playing right now. I'm trying to get every dollar I can get. I just thought about that. Yeah, I ain't make no money like these jokers making for real.
Right.
I think everybody's entitled to their own opinion. I mean, you're gonna have everybody's different. If he feels like he don't want to play, that shouldn't be held against him. If I feel like I want to play, it shouldn't be held against me. So everybody's different. They gave you an option, to opt out of your contract for a year and no damage be done to you. So I think each individual person is different.
Right.
And me too, Seth, I can remember the last year when I got hurt, man, when I got hurt and I came back and, it was 90, I want to say 95 or 96. Ray Rhodes came to my house and Ray Rhodes says, "Man, we got to get you back." And so when I get back to Philadelphia, I begin to run and the first thing I do, I go in there and Price tells me to get on this MCM machine and I'm trying to get my knee strong. And he says, "All I want to do is see where you at." And when I got on that MCM machine and I began to go and my knees start throbbing and going this, that, and the other, I get out on the football field and I begin to do these drills and the coach says, "Well, we're going to put a time on it." Ray Rhodes said, "We're not going to put a time on this guy. This guy's been here. He's been doing what he needs to do." When I get back into the Eagles office, into the training room, I couldn't even get ice. I wasn't under contract. Man, I had a bitter feeling. So I know that you have to look out for yourself. You must look out for yourself. And if you don't look out for yourself, they're not going to look out for you. It took me a long time. Man. Bitter. Man, I ain't going back to no games. I'm not going back to no game. I'm not going back. And not only that, I was taken up to the office to where Harry Gamble. He was one of the and I'm sitting in front of him. And he says, "Man, you got to come back. But this is what you got." I said, "I'm working out at home. I'm doing this. No, you got to come back and you got to work with our guys. You got to. I'm saying, wait a minute, man. What is this? I'm underrepresented here. I don't represent myself. I pay people to represent myself. But see that they gonna get and take. But it's up to the players to take a stand, man. Players got to take a stand.
Wow. I can remember when you got hurt, man. We were in the game, and as we were coming off the field, I got the word that you got hurt, man.
Yeah, I heard that. Yeah,
I never knew the extent of everything that went on. And that's a sobering thing. That's something that the public look on the outside looking in doesn't get a chance to see and understand. Right. You know, how the business of football dictates the decisions that you make, positive and negative, right and wrong, because it really is. It really is all about players getting all that you can as long as you can. Because when it's done, it's done. Whether you're injured like yourself, or whether you get old like me, you know, and they kick you out of the game, no matter what the circumstances are, that's the route that it goes. Because every single year you got a whole new crop of kids that's coming in. So they're always trying to push the envelope. They're always trying to see, you know, how far they can push the situation. And listen, it's the greatest thing in the world, man. Football for me, man, growing up, all I ever wanted to do is be a professional football player. So in order for me to be blessed enough to realize my dream, but then when you get there, then you understand the business of football. And it's different. It's vastly, vastly different. And I just want to go back and touch on one of the points that you made when you talked about, you know, the quarterbacks. The NFL is primarily, in my opinion, it's a star-driven league. You know, you got your top 15%, you know, that's your quarterback, that's your best offensive lineman, your best wide receiver, you know, that's your best down lineman, your best linebacker, and probably, you know, a corner and a safety. Okay. So I pose a question to you. How much are you going to want to watch football when you get to a point where if the major guys aren't there, like the Kansas City Chiefs coming off a Super Bowl victory, okay? If Patrick Mahomes contracts the COVID and they quarantine him for 2 weeks and then he's got some underlying conditions or something and it goes 3 weeks or 4 weeks, who the heck wants to watch the Kansas City Chiefs play football, you know, with the backup quarterback in, without the MVP, without the Super Bowl MVP, without arguably right now the best quarterback in the NFL? Who wants to watch that?
Well, I'm a football fan, man, and I just love watching football no matter who's playing, especially in the NFL. And we also understand, too, that injuries happen all the time. Patrick Mahomes got hurt, was it last year? Hurt his knee, missed 4 or 5 games, I think. And, you know, we still watched him. So whether he's in there or Brady's out or Carson Wentz's out, you know, hey, Ike, when Carson Wentz was out, we still watched the game, didn't we?
Yeah.
So, you know.
Hey, but stop playing, though, Try. Let's be serious now.
Okay.
If Mahomes went down, you ain't watching the Chiefs. Yeah. You're not going to watch them.
No, he's right. No,
I like football, man. I'm serious. It ain't like basketball. It ain't like basketball where you lose one guy and the whole team is done. Football,
it's not. It's not. But I understand where they're coming from, because the point that they're making is that it's a quarterback-driven league, and when you don't have the best quarterback under center, the offense don't look the same. I don't care about all the other. I get a case in point. And this goes to Willie T's point about not watching the Chiefs. Green Bay and Kansas City played on Monday night last year when Patrick Mahomes was hurt and Matt Moore was out there. You know those ratings weren't the same without Patrick Mahomes being in that game.
But I still will watch him though.
Well, that's because we're diehards. But the casual fan wants to tune in to watch Patrick Mahomes. But like that's who the casual fan knows. I hate it. But these quarterbacks, if your team doesn't have a quarterback, man, you may as well not have a team that year, man. If you ain't got a quarterback, we ain't got a team.
I guarantee you these teams are taking extra precautions when it comes to their quarterbacks and their star players. I mean, I was watching some of the interviews with Patrick Mahomes, he had a mask on the whole time, even in practice. Now, when you looked at some of the defensive players, they didn't have one on the whole time. But your quarterback, I mean, I think it should be mandatory that he wear his mask. He's sleeping one, if you ask me.
For real.
Hey, Seth, I remember
we breathe if he's sleeping in the mask, right?
I remember we didn't have a quarterback. We had 8 quarterbacks. Come on.
We had 8 of them.
Yeah.
Come on. We had 8 quarterbacks.
Hey, B, I was about to go play quarterback.
Well, you should have.
Back then you could do that, but today's game, it's like they made the game so quarterback friendly. They just want somebody back there who can do 7-on-7, 7-on-7,
right.
just throw the ball. Like they basically taking the game away from the defense. It's hard to build a team around the defense that y'all had. Byron said.
Hey, Trot. I just
when y'all was playing.
Say it again.
Who was on the defensive line when y'all was playing?
For us?
Yeah.
Oh, we had, Reggie on one side, Clyde on the other side, Jerome Brown, Mike Pitts, Mike Golick.
Hey, how many tackles I'd have had if I had them jokers?
You wouldn't have had.
I had as many as you thought. Because they
was making all the plays.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Everything is stacked.
My stats are getting down.
That's it.
Where you say B, you could have got a boatload of assists. You weren't getting the solo.
Hey, that's how you got to jump on the pile, baby.
Hey man, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Well, let's segue, and talk some Eagles. Philadelphia is known for defense. And to Ike's point, I will always be a football purist. Like when I watch the Patriots beat the Rams in that 13 whatever.
Oh, you love that. I know you love that.
I love that game because that to me, that's football. I don't watch the NFL for a 45-42 game, man. Right. I mean, because that means you ain't doing nothing on the defensive side.
Right.
I agree. I'm with you on that.
So when we talk about defensive football, I can reminisce back to my time because I got a chance to play with some phenomenal players, that made me a better player, a better person. And then, you guys come along and you guys, had a full complement. You had a full team that was built that allowed you guys to go to 5 NFC championships, and get to a Super Bowl. In Philadelphia, the game overall has changed, but in Philadelphia, I think with the advent of the salary cap, that now all of a sudden what we have are teams that are going to be offensively driven. They're going to be built from an offensive perspective, and defense is going to be secondary. As you look at the game, how is the game evolving to you guys? And I can already tell you, I know how B and how Trotter think because they were just battered. They just want to knock the hell out of somebody, and they've taken that out of the game. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? They've taken that away. To me, the intimidation part of it is just as important as the physical part of it. And they've taken it away, and they've given all the advantages to the offensive side of the ball. So when you watch defensive football now, what do you think? How do you feel when you watch defenses play the game of football at the highest level, the NFL level now?
Seth, it's only a certain amount of defenses now that play. You may have 1 or 2 defenses that really play defense, man. The other one's just complementary to the offense. Seattle plays a pretty good defensive game. But like I said, there's only a certain few defenses. And sometimes the Baltimore, they play some pretty good defense sometimes. But other than that, Seth, man, this defenses, man, is just like you don't know what you're gonna get, man. You hope your offense comes to score. You hope your offense scores 28 points. If we had offense that scored 12 points. We had offense score 6 points, man. Man. Come on, 6 points. But to score 28 points and lose, come on, man. That ain't defense, man. Come on, that ain't defense. So it's kind of mind-boggling, man. But you know, like you said, that's just the way it's gone, man. They've taken defense out of football, man, which is no good at all.
Well, I'll tell you what, though. In all honesty, I wish I was playing in this day and time. I'd be having a good old time out there.
We had a thousand picks out there.
Back on interceptions, man. You know what I'm saying? It'll be all over with for me playing football right now. Because I was, 212, 215? Oh, I was perfect size.
203. 203.
Yeah, and I'm running all over the place. Yeah, we ain't really take blocks now.
Come on, Trot. You know, you just a battering ram, man. Talk to me. What you see when you watch football nowadays from a defensive perspective.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I think the only difference is you see more what we used to see on third down. You see it every down.
Exactly.
And also with the zone reads, and you know you see the zone reads in there, or the RPOs. I mean the RPOs. That's tough, especially when you got a quarterback like Lamar Jackson or any quarterback that got a little bit of athletic ability. That's really tough as a linebacker when you're getting run reads and then they throw the ball on a slant or to the flats or whatever. That can be tough. But I just think, you know, obviously the defense is going to adapt. You know, the linebackers are getting smaller and quicker and faster where they can play in open space. And you're starting to get more safeties come down to linebacker. And more big corners go to safeties, and more big linebackers go to defensive ends. So the game the defense has evolved. We're going to keep evolving. We'll make adjustments. The only issue I have with the league, which I know they're trying to protect us from us, but you know the hits on the quarterback is getting ridiculous, man. It's got to be tough to try to go get a sack when you got this small target to hit, and then when the quarterback see you coming, he ducking even more, so that target gets even smaller. Or a receiver that's catching the football. I don't know who said it, but there's no consequences for coming across the middle these days. And football, I think you got to have a certain mentality to play this game. It take a certain type of person. But with the way the game is now, you can get any Joe off the street to come play because they taking the physical part of football out of the game.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of what the fellas said, and listen, you guys, I know B&E and Trot, and even you, Seth, even though you were an outside linebacker, very athletic, very skillful, playing open space, cover tight ends, cover running backs, cover wide receivers, much like Willie T was as a player, and actually the players that I aspire to be, being a smaller sort of linebacker, but I also had a physical mentality, which just the way that I played the game, I just wasn't as big. So while me personally, I'm okay with the sort of philosophy of the way the game is played on the defensive side, because I think it probably suits my skill set a lot more, but it doesn't suit my mentality from the standpoint of being able to be an intimidator. And that's how I grew up loving the game of football, is that it wasn't so much about the skill as much as it was about, this is a tough man's game. This is a game about being a dog and being out there, even from an offensive standpoint, running backs that ran the ball with a physical mentality as opposed to guys that go out of bounds and want to make you miss. That's the football I grew up on. And so it's been an adjustment, obviously, when we know what comes with the physicality of the game and head injuries and concussions and life after football and quality of life. I get all of that, and I would never be a hypocrite having a son that plays the game, but I can't help but be who I am with my DNA, and that's physical football, and that's what you miss about the game today, and it's unfortunate. It's a fantasy football league. I mean, that's what it's about. It's about fantasy football.
Hey, Seth, I would say that it is adding years to these guys' careers. without because I mean, like you said, you saw me play. I played at 3 yards off the line of scrimmage, and I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy that. That was my game. I enjoyed coming downhill, hitting the center in the mouth, getting off and making the play. And but when I look at my boys playing, I see what I went through physically. They don't have to go through that physically on that level, and so it's adding years to their career. Also, like I said, life after football. You're not getting all of that, the head injuries, as much as you would as when we played.
I just, when I watch the game, there's something about the game and imposing your will on your opponent and dominating the game at the line of scrimmage and sending messages. That was a big part of, what we did from a defensive standpoint. I can remember early on, and Trot, you're 100% correct, because what you're seeing now is you're seeing the blue gun, the red gun, the run and shoot. You're seeing those offenses run on first down, and you're seeing third down offenses. Because when I came in the league, you never saw a 3 wide receiver set on first down.
Never.
Or second down. Never. Those were exclusively second down, third down, or fourth down offenses, So now, because they're doing that, they're forcing the hand of defenses. I can remember when, Buddy was like, I can remember calling the timeout one time because they had 3 wide receivers on the field, and I was out there covering Art Monk in the slot. Okay, I called timeout, man. I got cussed out before I could even get halfway to the sideline. He was like, "Get out there and jam him and run with him, cover him." But what we would also do is line me up on that guy and bring me off the edge. Now you got B hitting the A gap. The 3 technique, hitting the B gap. You got the 2 technique, hitting the other A gap. And I'm coming off the edge. And you got Reggie and Clyde coming off the edge, or one of those guys slam. Okay? Mm-hmm. So now we presented so much pressure on offenses that we could force them to get out of that, those personnel groupings. Where now you can't do that. The offenses exclusively dictate on every single play what kind of defense and what kind of personnel you're going to be in every single down. And there's nothing that the defenses can do about it because you've taken away our ability to intimidate the most important person on the offensive side of the ball, and that's the quarterback.
Right.
One thing I've noticed, though, you look at teams like the 49ers,
right,
Baltimore.
Yeah,
so the whole NFL is built to stop the pass, right? Linebackers are small.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you get the 49ers coming in, 2 tight end set, 2 quarterback, running back, or Baltimore. They can't stop them. All of a sudden now, these small linebackers don't know how to get off blocks. They don't know how to get down here. They playing sideways, and the linemen are getting up the field. So by the time they make contact, you done picked up 7-8 yards. So eventually, somebody gonna have to make an adjustment in one of those conferences, or they just gonna continue to dominate, especially when they get in the playoffs.
Hey, the more things change, the more things stay the same. Baltimore can play a myriad of different ways with you.
Right.
They'll get down and dirty with you with 2 and 3, tight ends on the field and just play smash mouth football, and force you into what they want to force you into. And then they've got tight ends that are versatile enough, they can flex them out and force the linebackers, to go out and have to cover those guys in space. So, I just, my thing is from a defensive perspective, how much the game has changed. And I want you guys to kind of interject on, the defensive coordinators you played for. Byron and I, we had the privilege of playing under Buddy. Buddy was a piece of work, man. But I tell you, he made us both better football players. And then when Buddy departed, we got an opportunity to play for Bud Carson. The guy that was coaching the Steel Curtain when they were winning Super Bowls back in the day. And Bud was just as aggressive as Buddy was. He wasn't overly aggressive sometimes like Buddy was. Buddy's thing was, we're gonna stress you at every point and every time. I want to stress your quarterback. I want him to think every single time that he drops back. I want him to think. And Bud would do the same thing, So what I want to do now is I want to kind of go through, the coordinators that you guys have played for and give me some perspective about those guys, starting with Byron and Buddy first, and then Bud, and then Willie and his relationship, with Bud Carson, and then Jeremiah and Ike. Obviously, you guys came in playing for Jim.
Seth, it was just speaking of a buddy, man, we just took his mentality and put it on the field. We couldn't, it was, I had one of my best friends I grew up with from kindergarten. I couldn't even shake his hand. I couldn't even say hi to him because he played for another team. And we had to take on that mentality. And he didn't understand it. And half of the time I didn't understand it. But when I saw Wes, I saw Dre, and I saw them guys never shake no hands. I'm like, man, if I go over and shake a hand, and you like, man, don't you go shake no hand. We ain't shaking no, and Buddy ain't shaking no hands. So we took the mentality, man. We had to take the mentality. And not only that, man, you can see that with Bud. Bud was just as intense. Bud just didn't remember what he was saying. But Bud was intense. You shut the F up and play. I'm like, Bud, man, every time San Francisco is 3rd and 300, they go into Jerry Rice and they get 300. Shut up. F you. I'm like, Bud, wait a minute. And that's when we had put Lil Mac in the game. And then he looked at Lil Mac and said, you ain't ready. F you, Lil Mac. 3rd and 35. Jerry Rice got 38 yards. I'm like, man, what else you gonna do, man? What else you gonna do? He put Lil Mac in the game. John Taylor hit a slant about 40 yards. Lil Mac comes back. Hey, man, I did the best I can. That's what we want you to do. We want you to challenge. After that, we begin to roll, man. We begin to roll because we took on the same mentality, man. And the thing of it was, man, every one of us challenged each other. Every one of us challenged each other in a good way. T, I see you at the quarterback. Seth, I see you at the quarterback. Seth, I'm going to get this. Seth, I'm going to do this. Hopper said, hey, man, bring him inside. Oh, don't bring him outside. Take him outside. I got it. And that's what made football what it was for us, man.
That's that Q dog ratcheting up right there. That 56.
I'm just telling you the stories I remember.
Talk to me, T.
I tell you what, man. When I came in, like the script was already set for me. All I did was watch those two fellas right there on the same screen and did what they did. That's all I did. I watched the film, what they did. And then with Bud, I'm like, what the hell? He checking the silver, he checking the green. I'm like, I don't know none of that. But guess what? I figured it out. And all I did said, hey, man, we're going to meet at the quarterback, like Byron said. And when Ray came in, we had a whole totally different philosophy. Ray came in and we had Emmett Thomas was the coordinator. And he came with a totally different philosophy, man. He came with some more.
Look at Troy's face.
Huh? I know, look at Troy. Now you look at Troy, you're like, man, don't say that name. Don't say that name.
I'm just listening. I'm listening, man. I'm enjoying it.
When Emmett came in, he put us in different defense. That's when I started getting all my interceptions and making more plays. So that's why I'm really pleased to have him as a coordinator. But then Jim Johnson came in, and he was bringing people from left and right all out. And I'm like, damn, what's going on around here, right? I thought we were back, and I'm like, okay. And there was a lot of zone blitzing too. So sometimes some of the zones would be empty, right? I'm like, hey, Jim. And the running back and the tight end ran up the seam on me over here. Somebody, who I'm gonna cover? He's like, well, he said, just pick one. I said, all right, but when he came in, man, they used to talk to players crazy sometimes, man. And sometimes you're like, whoa, wait a minute, man. I'm a grown man. Don't talk to me like that. But they say, look, take it with a grain of salt and just let the hear the good, but don't hear the bad. I'm like, well, it's really not hard to hear. It's not easy to not hear that bad in there because he cussing all us out in here. Right. But it is what it is. I went through three coordinators, and all of them taught me something different.
Right.
I learned a lot, man, from Jim Johnson, the late great Jim Johnson. Jim was really great at taking what you do best and applying it to his defense. You know, he didn't have just one defense he run. He really allowed us to do what we do best. And for me, it was just playing downhill. I remember when I first started, they used to run the Mike lead and the fake lead, and I was downhill every play. And I had to go downhill, hit the fullback in the backfield, but I had to. And Jim just told Willie T, listen, just cover for trot, because I wanted to. You know, I was young. He said, listen, just cover for trot. He played downhill. You just cover the tight end. And sometimes I would just, he told me, said, Trot, if you get that deep in the backfield, just keep going to the quarterback. You know? So he really allowed me to flourish, continue to do what I do best, and kind of make mistakes that I go along until I got to the point to where I could read the linemen, read, pass, and run, so to speak. And then you got guys like Willie T that really looked out for us young guys, man. So, Willie T and Jane Willis, man, they meant so much to my career, just helping the guy out, especially after going through what I went through my rookie season, having a tough time. And, and that's what it takes, the veteran guys, what you guys instilled in Willie T, he gave it back. He gave it back to the game when he looked out for myself and Ike and so on and so forth. So Ike and I try to do the same thing when Willie T left.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. We first of all, you guys set the benchmark. You know what I mean? Playing in those Buddy Ryan defenses, knowing about the 1991-92 Eagles defenses, all those teams, and the way that you guys played, you sort of set the standard of what defense is supposed to be like in the city of Philadelphia. So, Trotter and I coming in 1998, we already know the reputation of the team and what the culture is supposed to be like from a defensive standpoint, but having somebody like Willie T there to really help guide us and at times, and probably me more so than Trotter, because I was behind Willie T. When I first got drafted here, Emmett Thomas said, you don't have to worry about playing on defense. You just make sure you watch number 51 and do everything he do. But, hey, first of all, I'm like, hold up, E.T. I was a 4-year starter at Michigan State. You just ain't gonna tell me don't worry about playing.
You from a small school, right?
Yeah. but hey, he pretty much told me you won't be playing defense, but just follow what he does and mimic him. And so I needed that. And Willie T was such a smart linebacker, and we were built pretty much the same. I just soaked up everything he did and everything he said to me, and then I tried to apply it to my game. And then when Jim Johnson came in, man, let me tell you, man, I done played for some crazy coaches, some coaches that like to get after you, and believe me, Nick Saban will give anybody a run for their money playing for him, but playing for Jim Johnson, I don't think I wanted to win over a coach as much as I wanted to win over Jim Johnson and earn his trust. And there were times that Jim would just say things to me that would encourage me and let me know that, okay, what you're doing, we notice it, even if you don't think we're noticing it. Mm-hmm. And I can still remember a day in training camp in 2000 where he was like, just keep working hard and I'm going to find a way to get you on the field. I'm going to find a way. Now you got to realize there's a lot of good players out there, and I can't crack the linebacking starting lineup. But the great thing about Jim, as Trot mentioned earlier, he's going to play to your strengths. He's going to play to what you do well. So when he needed somebody to play this joker in his Okie package, which is a nickel defense, where I'm running line stunts, I'm running picks for defensive ends, I'm doing stuff I hadn't done before, using a lot of my athleticism. He figured out a way to get me on the field and it made me feel like I was a part of something, man. Because to play in the Jim Johnson defense, I'm pretty sure it was the same playing on the in the Buddy Ryan defense. But to play in the Jim Johnson defense, you had to really earn his trust, and to be out there amongst those players. I owe a lot of that to Jim and how he coached me up away from the football field. And so I knew he took a liking to me, and he found a way to get me on the field. What's up?
Remember Jim Johnson wanted Willie T to come downhill on the backside and hit them tackles? So Willie T done already told you he only about 215. And Willie T, his game is finesse game. I think that's why he thrives so much in Emmett Thomas' defense. But Jim Johnson come in, he want everybody to play the way I played in the middle. and so on the backside of run, he wanted Willie T to come downhill and earhole the tackle. Willie T was like, hey, man.
No, man.
He's like, hey, man, I keep you doing all that.
Let me tell you one thing Willie T told me. Hey, T, you probably don't even remember this, T. T told me this my rookie year. T said, man, no, it might have been the second year. It might have been 99 with Jim. It might have been in 99. So, yeah, it probably was. So we in training camp, and T like, man, you let Trotter and them jokers go make all those tackles, man. Linebackers don't get paid to make tackles. We get paid to make interceptions, sacks, forced fumbles. We get paid to make plays in this league. T said, I'm a playmaker. I ain't no damn tackling machine. Let Trotter make all them tackles.
Hey, everybody got something to do. Hey, I remember one time, Seth, we were playing the New England Patriots at home, right? And so Ike was talking earlier about how smart Willie T was, man, and how he helped us out. So they ran a play, and the next play in the huddle, Willie T said, try. The next time they come out in that set, fake like you're going to go to the left and come back. You're going to get a pick. And I was like, all right, he know more than me. Yo, I went in there and did it, man. Dang it, I got a pick, man. I was just like, man, this and as a young guy, you know, you take stuff like that, you're like, man, how you know that? But you know, just so when I got to the point where I was a veteran, man, so little stuff like that, we tried to give back to the young guys, man. But stuff like that really helped, man. And so I just tried to pick his brain as much as possible. And I'm sure he did the same thing with you guys, you know.
Well, you know, listen.
Hey, Seth, T had to be in the 17th year telling him what he wasn't going to do. Because if he had been playing from when we was playing, once you said you weren't going to do that, you're going to be on that one-way ticket.
Well, he didn't say that to Jim. He said that to us.
Said it to anybody. Am I right, Seth? Come on, Seth.
Hey, listen.
It wasn't no running back behind it. No, I'm not.
It's, you know, there's such, you know, this is good stuff because, you know, people get to peer into, you know, our respective eras of playing and get an opportunity to see what was going on behind the scene. You know, each and every one of you guys made a poignant point, you know. In my years of playing, I never played with a player that was under more pressure than Byron was. Because if you could understand what AFCs are, I mean, man, listen, I mean, you just, I mean, and there would be times where I would like look over to him and whisper, and Buddy would like get really mad. He was like, shut up, don't tell him, he got to learn it, you know? I mean, and B would call almost every play on the sheet except for the right one sometimes. You know? And you got to understand the psychology. See, Buddy wasn't drafting players, man, that he couldn't play those psychological games with. Because for him, you know, he wasn't patting anybody on the behind but Randall. Everybody else, you know, was getting straight fired, you know. And if he determined that you were one of those guys that, you know, that he could frazzle during the week, then he got you up out of there. You know, if he chewed your behind off, or it is different now. I mean, these players today couldn't live in that era because Buddy would go right into a press conference after a game and call you out after the game before he even reviewed the film. and it'll be all over the front page the next day. But some guys could handle that, and other guys couldn't. Then you talk about, paying it forward. I always talk, people always ask me, who is that guy? I'll go back to Gary Cobb, because I can remember having those conversations in the locker room where Go-Go would tell us, hey, man, this is what you do, this is how you do it, this is where you go, this is where you don't go, this is who you hang out. I mean, he mentored us, And the crazy part about it is 2 years later, I was the guy that took his job, and he was no longer in Philadelphia, but he didn't hold that back. So when I hear these quarterbacks, sometimes it's not my job to coach that guy. It's not. I'm like, come on, man. It's your fiduciary responsibility to mentor and pay forth what people have paid for you to be great. And they're like, it's not my job. What are you talking about? I mean, that knowledge has to be passed along. And it should be passed along, because from my perspective, it's like, okay, if I don't help the backup behind me, and I don't tell him what he's supposed to be doing, at some point he's gonna have to get in there and play. Now, what if he happened to get in there and have to play at a time when all of a sudden we're in a playoff run, and that guy's got to play? Then what?
Or it's the second game of the season in my rookie year, and Willie T went out like the second series of the game, man. Boy. They was like, all right, get out, get in there. And I'm like, dude, I ain't looked at the playbook. I ain't looked at nothing, dude. I'm like, hold on. I thought Emmett told me not to worry about playing, man. I didn't know I had to go out here and play.
Yeah.
Hey, I still
You just
remember
special teams, huh?
Hey, T, we was playing Arizona. It was the second game of the season. It was like Sunday night. And I said, it was on ESPN too. I said, Lord, please let them run the ball so I could just, if they run the ball, I know I can get to the run. But if they throw the ball, I don't know who I got, what's my responsibility or nothing, man. Oh, my goodness, man.
Hey, listen, I'll tell you this, okay, as we segue again, in Philadelphia, a couple of things. The linebacker position, in my opinion, has been neglected in Philadelphia since, Trot was drafted in 98, in the third round, 72nd pick overall. Then Michael Kendricks was drafted in 12 in the second round, and that might be as high as a pick, for a linebacker that the Eagles have had in I don't know how long, 46th pick, I should say. And then Jordan Hicks in 2015. Was drafted in the third round, 84th overall. And, Joe Banner and Howie Roseman, they've got a philosophy about how they like to draft. And they don't put a whole lot of urgency, don't put a lot of importance on that position at linebacker. It's in my opinion, it's even more important now to have at least one playmaker, because we're not playing a 4-3 or a 3-4 anymore. We're playing a 4-2 front is what we're playing. And if you don't have at least one hellraiser, at least one playmaker sitting off in that middle, you don't have a shot. You just don't have a shot, So when I look at the Philadelphia Eagles and I'm looking at what they have, this Jatavius Brown kid just retired today. Hung up his cleats, said he done. They made a trade for him. They traded for him from the Chargers. And he's a special teams player, but having an opportunity to come here and compete for a starting job. He hangs his cleats up. So you got TJ Edwards, Nate Geary, converted safety. And I won't kill him too bad, Willie T, because I remember you as a converted safety. They just drafted this kid out of Colorado, Davion Taylor. They got Duke Riley, Alex Singleton. These guys are special teams guys. And then, they drafted the kid out of Temple late, Sean Bradley, who I think's got a real opportunity. And they got a guy on the roster, I don't even know who he is, Dante Olson. So they're going into camp with some issues at the linebacker position. But when you look at what they've done on the defensive line, bringing in Javon Hargrave, potentially getting Malik Jackson back, is that going to be an issue for them moving forward?
You know what? I would like to think that it could I mean, I shouldn't say I would like to think. I'm concerned that it may be an issue. I just don't think Jim Schwartz, for whatever reason, I don't know if I should single him out or is it a league thing, the majority of the league, where they just don't value the position as much as they used to. And unless you're in a defense where the linebackers are in attack mode, like they kind of feel like, okay, we can get guys that can drop into a zone coverage or can cover the running backs or tight ends coming out of the backfield. And I just don't think they either don't value it or they have a blind spot for trying to recognize talented linebackers. Maybe that's the real issue, is that they just don't know how to pick good linebackers.
Well, when you say just cover guys out of the backfield, but they're not being successful at it, though.
I agree.
If they're not being successful, then they're not covering guys out of the backfield. They're not covering tight ends. So that's the problem that I have when I watch the Eagles. I'm like, man, they really don't put no emphasis on linebackers. They really don't. And to me, I thought we were the most important position out there on the field. Well, hell, we had to cover, we had to make the tackles, we had to take on blocks, we had to do it all.
So I'm gonna stop you. I'm gonna stop you right there, Willie T, because you know what? This is the linebacker show, and I'm gonna agree with you 100%. In my opinion, the linebacker is the most important player on the defensive side of the ball because we're a hybrid. You know, we're a half defensive line and we're half secondary. If they run the ball, we involved. If they throw the ball, we got to be communicating back there. We got to be involved. When they throw the ball, the defensive linemen, what are they doing? They going to get the quarterback. When they run the ball, what the secondary doing? They sitting back there playing pass first, you know?
Right.
So in my opinion, it's an important position because those two linebackers, the three linebackers, they're involved in everything on every single play.
We got to take on guys that's 60, 70 pounds heavier than us in the running game or when we blitzing. And then we got to tackle guys that's way faster and smaller and more athletic than us in the open field. So, and what Ike was talking about, I think it's important in the league. I just think it depends on what team you look at. And
it's the teams, right?
And a lot of the good teams, the really good defensive teams, have a really good linebacker in the middle. You look at Seattle. You look at the 49ers. Who else?
Carolina.
You look at Carolina.
Baltimore got a good defense, yeah.
You look at a couple of years ago, two linebackers go in the top 10 pick. They was a little smaller, but the kid that went to Tampa Bay and the kid went to Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh has always been big on linebackers. That's why I think they always have one of the toughest defenses in the National Football League year in and year out because they value the linebacker position, whether it's inside or outside. And, I'm hoping that the Eagles will put more stock into the linebacker position and get some guys that are high. But, we'll see.
If not, we got one right here at the house. Right here at the house, we got one.
You got one?
Yeah, right at the house. Yes, sir.
B&E 2.
There it is. Right at the house.
Hey, but quality, that Temple linebacker is pretty good, though.
Right at the house. Hey, this one at the house is pretty good, too. Yes, sir. Real good. Yes, sir.
What year is he in?
Oh, he ready to go. He ready to go now. Yes, sir. He ready to go now.
Well, I tell you what, when I think about the upgrades on the defensive side of the ball, I'm me, I believe that defenses should apply pressure because pressure is what makes pipes bust, and you got to apply pressure to these quarterbacks. You cannot allow them to sit back and do what they want to do. So when I look at the Eagles and their upgrades, they bring in they trade for a Darius Slay. They bring in a Hargrave. They bring in Roby Coleman. They bring in a Will Parks, for competition. There's a lot of improvement going on. So my question, to the group is, as you watch the Eagles, does this change the way that Jim Schwartz calls defenses now? Because, his approach has been pretty passive unless he really had to be overly aggressive in a situation where his hand was forced. But when you look at the improvements that they made, does that change the way that he calls defenses? Does he call defenses a little more aggressive now that you've got a corner that can lock down one side of the field and you've got a stalwart, defensive line that that can get pressure? Does that change the way he calls plays, or is this just another one of those situations where they've improved the position and they've improved the defense, but he's just going to continue to call defenses in a passive way and rely just on the four-man pressure?
Seth, I think it depends on the continuity, man, how they mesh together, how they come together. A couple of years ago when they got what's the quarter, Vince Young, and they got the other guy, Asamoah, and all them other guys, and they talked about they were this and that. Man, you got to come together, you got to mesh together, man, and
the dream team.
Yeah, the dream team. There you go. Yeah. Oh, we the dream team. They lost. They still games, man. I'm like, the dream team. What kind of dream were you in? What kind of dream? Hey, Seth. Hey, I love y'all, man. I gotta go, Seth. I gotta get my practice, man.
All right, man. Appreciate you.
Be blessed, man. Y'all peace. All right.
So hey, listen, I'm just trying to figure out, guys, what you think this defense is going to look like.
I honestly think with Darius Slay there, it should. I think from a theoretic standpoint, you're right. And in theory, he added a lot to the secondary. They've improved at the cornerback position. They've improved at the safety position. They've actually added some strength and some speed in the inside. So that should allow for the coach to be a little more creative in what he's doing. Like the idea that all you have to do is run this sort of wide nine sort of defense where you just use your front four to get pressure on the quarterback and you're going to try to play coverage with 7 guys. I get what he's trying to do, but the problem is your pass rushers aren't dynamic enough to get you consistent pressure. They just aren't. Now, they should be more improved, but I just don't think they are dynamic enough where you got 2 outside defensive ends that can bend the corner as well as give you a variety of pass rushing moves. I like what they got in the inside. They'll collapse the middle of that pocket, but Derek Barnett still has not yet scratched the surface on what they thought he was going to be. And Brandon Graham, we all love him, but he's a little bit older and he's not getting to the quarterback as fast. And why else would you go get Darius Slay? I mean, why would you go get a guy like Darius Slay who can force that quarterback to hold on to the ball just a little bit longer if you match him up with the best wide receiver? Like that should allow you to bring some extra pressure from somewhere.
Well, I will, before you go, Trot, and I got one more question, I'm gonna let y'all get up out of here. Before you answer that, Trot, I will say this. Does that speak to the Eagles' inability to be active on a Jadeveon Clowney or a Everson Griffith rather than bringing back Vinny Curry, because listen, we know what we're going to get from Vinny Curry. I'm not opposed to Vinny Curry, but I just feel like they need a bona fide outside guy because you're not getting that out of Barnett, and Brandon Graham, he's going to give you everything that he has. But I don't think Brandon Graham is a double digit sack guy. I don't see it. So did they drop the ball, by making this signing rather than waiting to maybe get a Jadeveon Clowney or signing an Everson Griffith?
The only issue I have with Clowney is he'll show up for whatever reason. If you can get him emotionally into the game, he's unstoppable. But he'll disappear for 3 or 4 games, and you don't really hear from him. And he's got too much talent to kind of be disappearing during the course of a football game. And you're at the point now, you're professional. Coach shouldn't have to go out there and get you fired up. You should get game day. You should get out of the bed fired up. I think that's one of the issues they had with him in Houston, that he just wasn't consistent enough,
Right.
Because you when he made his mind up, he wanted to do something, really nobody could stop him. Am I right, Ike?
Right. He was that
right.
though.
Huh?
He didn't just get to the NFL with that tag on him. He was that way in college.
Right. So the NFL, they still drafted him high. They'll deal with that for a while, but after a while, it's like, listen, we pay you to come ready for each and every game and give us 100% every play. We shouldn't have to beg you to go out there and get you hyped up and all that nonsense. So I understand when teams are ready to move on, they'll deal with it because there's so much upside, and you as a coach, you always believe if I can just get him here, I can get him right.
Mm-hmm.
I can get it right. But, he's gonna because if he was that good, he was still – where's he at now? He hasn't signed?
He ain't signed yet. No.
That's what I'm kind of – now, that could have something to do with the amount of money that he's asking for, but I think he's asking for the money for a guy that's going out there just going to change the game each and every week, and he's not doing that.
Interesting. Last question before I let you guys run. Biggest question mark on the defensive side of the ball, the Maddox-Jones competition or the Jalen Mills to safety move?
Wow, that's a good question. I would have to say the Maddox-Jones competition because they got to be able to find somebody to play opposite Slay, right? And Slay is so good that a team won't mind throwing the ball at Sidney Jones or Avonte Maddox. And most of these teams have two good wide receivers. Like it's gone are the days where you have one true number one wide receiver and the other guys are just also ran guys. No, that typically that guy on the other side is pretty damn good too. Mm-hmm. And because you're looking at Avonte Maddox and Sidney Jones, two guys that have yet to play 16 games on that outside, it's a lot different. I like Avonte Maddox, but I like him more in the inside on the slot than I do on the outside. And Sidney Jones, I was a big believer in Sidney Jones. I still am. But much like Derek Barnett, it's time to stop talking about breaking out talent and potential and all that stuff. It's time to put up, or quite frankly, he may be on the last leg of his NFL career. He's going to have to show something this year.
Try before we go.
I'm going to say the Jalen Mills move. I don't know a lot about Jalen Mills, but I don't think he's never played safety. And, that's a big difference going from corner to safety. Just from the physical standpoint, I think they're going to really miss Malcolm Jenkins. He did so much for that defense, not just the leadership. Man, he could play the nickel. He was play safety. He's come down, play linebacker. He was all. He did so much, and he was a playmaker. Right, big game. Yeah. There was times when seemed like nobody on the defense was making plays, but he was out there making plays. He showed up to every game. He always made plays. He was a difference maker. So I think they're gonna miss him. I hope Jalen Mills can make the transition, but who's to know?
And I tell you this. I tell you this. Off of what Trot just said, this don't think this isn't in the back of their minds. They brought in enough other safeties. If Jalen Mills doesn't really hold up physically there, yep, Jalen Mills could be right back out there playing corner opposite Darius Slay, especially if those other two guys don't impress Jim Schwartz or Doug Peterson early in the season. Jalen Mills can always go back to playing corner, and they got enough other guys in here to play safety if need be.
The thing I like about it the most, Ike, is they provided depth at the position to create enough competition where the cream is going to rise to the top and everybody else, you can just move off to the side. You bring in Will Parks, a guy who's got, some experience. You draft,
Wallace
out of Clemson. So you got all the pieces right there to create the competition. But at the end of the day, if the Jalen Mills experiment doesn't work out, you got other players that can actually step in and help you and help solve that problem. Listen, man, hey, I tell my guests every single week, man, our time is all of our most precious commodity. And I appreciate you guys, man, coming on the Seth Joyner Show with me today, an hour and 15 minutes. We went over, but I appreciate your time. And I love you guys, man. I appreciate it. This was so much fun, man. We either got to do it again or we got to do it in a way where we can just, go unscripted and just keep rolling and then chop it up and throw it up in bits and pieces.
I don't know if I can do a trot like that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, hey, listen, man. Hey, listen, Seth. In all seriousness, I was honored, brother, to do it. I'm happy to come on, be blessed to be with these guys. These two guys, my brother that I came in with, and Jeremiah Trotter, my big brother, and Willie T, and two guys that I've gotten to know and respect in yourself, and Byron Evans, my big brothers, man. So shit, I'm blessed that you invited me to come on, brother. So thank you. Anytime you need me, I got you.
We definitely got to sign off now. I can start cussing, boy.
Hey, I curse. I can even hear it. Hey, hold on.
Listen.
This ain't rated R. What we doing?
No,
here,
you good, man. You good. I'm just clowning you. To my man Byron Evans, number 56. To my man Willie T, number 51. Jeremiah Trotter, 54, and Mr. 58. Ike Reese. My brothers, I appreciate you, man. To my producer Tom Schrader and Derek Stevenson, appreciate you guys as always. We'll be back next week with another good show. I'm trying to bring them in for you, however I can bring them in. But make sure you guys give me a follow on YouTube. Make sure you give me a follow on Instagram, a follow on Twitter, and a follow on Facebook. Until next week, hey, you guys love each other, protect each other, and be good to one another. Peace.